Welcome back to the Above Average Podcast. I'm Mark. You all know Will, and we're joined today by a very special guest, Emily Harrigan, who is a former D1 collegiate soccer star, upcoming supermodel, and social media influencer, to just name a few of her titles. We're super excited to have you and see what some of the things you want to get off your chest are. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So some of the, a little bit into Emily's background, which she'll share with all of you, is she used to play Division I soccer at Rutgers and Pitt. We'll get a little bit to that journey that you've talked about, I'm sure, a lot in your past. We'll get a little bit more into that, as I said, and spend a little time modeling on the side, or is that kind of the primary?
In there,
Yeah.
Not about on the side. Yeah.
And then mostly as well doing a lot of social media. Pretty big following. Should be proud of that as well.
Thank you, yeah.
Will and I are aspiring.
We are aspiring. Yeah. What is the following looking like right now?
We're at about 165K on Instagram and right under 200K on TikTok. So
Nice.
we're getting there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not a YouTube star like either of you yet.
We're not YouTube.
All right, 230 loyal subscribers. We appreciate you. We like to subscribe. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. And before we get into it, everybody's probably wondering what the heck these are sitting on the table. Shouts out to 111 Juice Bar hooking us up with some juice. And I got to tell you, as you could tell, we drank most of it prior to even starting the shoot. Emily already drank hers.
Already done mine, yeah.
So, but this is my first go at juice, and I gotta believe I'm ruined because I think I had some of the best.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're local to Pittsburgh, that's at 2743 East Carson Street. So go check them out.
Yeah, shouts out. So, with that, just get in a little bit to your background, whatever you're gonna share with us, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, definitely. And again, feel free to cut me off at any point because this is just like ingrained in my brain at this point.
Just go for it.
Yeah, so I guess I started playing soccer super young. It was because my older sister played, and no offense, Ashley, love you, but not athletic at all. So she did not stick with it, but I did. So I played soccer since I was about 6 years old, and I did really well with it. I guess in high school, had a really successful high school career, and I have records at Norwin still for most goals scored. My senior year, we won our first state championship in 20 years, I believe. And I was fortunate enough to go play in the All-American game down in Orlando, which they took 40 girls from the East Coast. So coming off of my senior year, I could definitely say I was on like cloud nine. I guess you can go back to sophomore year. I committed to Rutgers University, which was a top 4 women's soccer program at the time. They made it to the Final Four. And I remember my coach, who was my coach, he gave me a timeline. He's like, well, you have a week to decide. Let me know. And of course, it was like a no-brainer. I was sophomore in high school, and I can't even tell you that I knew what college was at that point, but I ended up going to Rutgers. So, like I said, came off of high school, cloud nine, and I did really well in preseason at Rutgers, and I made it in the first game as the first sub off the bench as a freshman. The center forward, who was a year older than me, who was a starting position, she went down with an injury, and I remember my coach called me up, and I'm running to midfield with taking off my tracksuit, and I hardly got into warm-up. So I go onto the field, and it was August 17th, 2018. I remember the date, playing against Delaware. I get in my first game, and I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, you know. It was crazy in the Big Ten, and my first college game ever. And I got acclimated finally and played a couple minutes, but one of the first runs that I made, I actually pulled my hamstring out of absolutely nowhere.
I didn't know that happened in the very first game.
First college game I've ever stepped foot in.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a little crazy. I thought it was just a cramp, and I tried to dog it off, and I was like, yep, definitely not a cramp. So I didn't get to play the rest of that game, obviously, and it ended up, I did all the rehab, and I tried to get back to practicing, I think like 2 weeks after, or like within that month time frame. Typically, it was only a grade 2 strain. So usually for grade 2, it's anywhere around a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's fairly reasonable, yeah.
So like I said, I was very fortunate where I never had to deal with any sort of injuries growing up. I think maybe 2 ankle sprains my senior year of high school, but I mean, playing high-level soccer all those years and only dealing with 2 ankle sprains, I was very fortunate.
Yeah.
So I tried to come back from this, and I ended up having to medically redshirt for my freshman year because I ended up tearing it. and I was out for 6 months. So I never got to play my freshman year.
So did the tear happen on the return?
Yeah, I think honestly, they kept saying it's just scar tissue. You're feeling cool. It's just scar tissue. But I actually got a second opinion from Dr. Bradley here in Pittsburgh, and he told me I needed career-ending surgery my freshman year.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, so
that must have put you in some sort of mental state.
yeah, and obviously, like I said, it was just my first year at a big school, and this was my dream and everything I worked for. And to hear that, I was like, I'm not getting that. Like, I'm not getting the surgery. So I think that's why I kept dealing with it for so long, because fast forward to sophomore year, I was starting almost every single game, getting great playing time. And then Big Ten play rolls around, and I'm in the game. I think it was against Minnesota, and I was like, my hamstring again. So I dealt with it again. And I was out for a little bit, but I was able to come back for the Big Ten tournament, and I did get to play in that and the NCAAs that year. Junior year, I dealt with pandemic, good old COVID pandemic, yeah. So our season got moved from the fall to the spring. The Big Ten decided to cancel the season. And all of us during this time, like, we were still training, so we weren't allowed to see other teams. And as rightfully so, this was completely new. Nobody knew what was going on. But if we went and saw another team on a weekend, like, we would get told on. Like, they would go straight to the coach because nobody wanted to get it, because that would just mean we can't practice, can't play. And I remember I went home for Christmas break, and I came back, and literally the week before I came back, I got COVID. And I remember having that really terrible call with all of my coaches on Zoom. I had to tell them. And so I had to stay home for a little bit longer. And I came back, and the entire team was already training, and I had to be on the sidelines because there was a really long process. So basically, you had to get cardiac MRI, blood troponin tests, EKG, like all this heart testing for the return to play protocol for the Big Ten. And it didn't matter what team you were on, but it was all a matter of, like, when you got it. So just with when I got it, I was pushed to, like, the way bottom of the list. So I was out with COVID, just standing there watching my team practice for a month. Wow. And that's also on top of after I've just been out for my hamstring for how long. So, like, I'm literally finally physically healthy, and I still have to be out because of COVID.
So, like, how did you keep yourself mentally prepared? Like, because I know, like, other sports, you're still game planning and going through, like, the clerical side of the sport or strategy or whatever. How did they try to keep you engaged?
Yeah, luckily, like I said, I was able to go to all the training sessions where I was still watching everything that they were doing, watching the people who were in my position. And also we did a lot of film. So I think just being able to still be around practice, luckily, because it wasn't contagious anymore, and just still being a part of everything that the team was doing, I was able to prepare for that. But I mean, it still wasn't easy because I wasn't able to do any cardio or keep up with conditioning or anything because of the heart stuff. So I had to wait to get cleared. And I will tell you, when I got back, I was so out of shape.
Yeah.
Probably more than from my hamstrings. At least with my hamstrings, I was able to jog and stuff. COVID, you weren't allowed to do anything. So that was tough for sure, with playing in the pandemic, and then our season getting taken from us and pushed back, and it was crazy. But then on top of that, I also broke my arm in a training session once I got back. And it was the craziest way that I broke my arm too. Like, the craziest thing. I was in practice, and a girl was, like, probably 6 feet away from me and drilled the ball. Like, absolutely drilled it. And I turned, and the ball hit my arm, and I broke both bones.
Is that why you have that giant bump on your wrist there?
I don't know.
Like,
I never noticed
right
it.
What is that? Oh, you have it on both hands. Never mind.
Wait, it's kind of like
No,
bigger, though.
yeah.
I never noticed that. No, I'm insecure.
I thought you were showing me that for a reason.
No, I was just doing a little motion.
Okay.
That's the second time you've made somebody feel insecure today. I want everybody to know that the top of this juice, again, shouts out to 111 Juice Bar, says fat burner, and will pick me
That's not how it happens.
to have this juice. So, I thought I was doing well. Everybody's heard about the 35 pounds. They're tired of hearing about it. But I think I need to up it to like 45 pounds so Will's done judging me.
Again, that's not how it happened. So continue with what you were saying.
No comment. But yeah, I broke my wrist, and it was on a Friday too, which was terrible because the physicians all traveled with the football team that weekend.
And they're gone.
And so I'm in this, like, Velcro brace for 3 days until Monday. Literally, I have no medications or anything. And I had to wait with 2 broken bones for 3 days. It was absolutely miserable. And then the best part about all of this, let me tell you, the best part was I broke my arm and then thought it casted. And that same week, I pulled my other hamstring.
Holy hell.
Yeah.
So you had any injuries?
I was under concussion protocol 3 times in my junior year, and then when I returned from my first concussion, I dislocated this finger. I got a ball kicked into the top, and it was like that way. And then I hurt my back lifting 3 times. So that's why I am where I am now. But nothing. I mean,
Nothing compared to what she just went.
no. I mean, like nothing that kept me out for longer than like 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think people really understand the toll that it takes on you being out and, you know, just standing there on the sidelines and doing like, okay, maybe a couple like ab workouts here and there and doing literally the bare minimum, like all you can do.
Yeah.
And just watching your team do something that you're like, wow, I really wish I could be out there proving myself, or they're getting more reps, they're doing this and I'm falling so far behind. It's hard to mentally be prepared for whenever you do step back in the game because there's so much that's going on in your head.
We used to refer to our like the injured group as Shutter Island. There was like a separate group message for it, and I mean we called it that ourselves, and like guys would make it out of the island and they would get removed from the group message because that's how it was. I mean you were talking about Rutgers, but like I mean at Pitt, an injury was seen as you did not prepare yourself adequately for the demands that the sport places on you, and so if you're injured, you're away from the team, focusing on getting back. And like you don't get to go back to like being involved until you're healthy again.
Yeah, and to like piggyback off of that, for me, this was an injury. My hamstring was an injury. Like nobody saw me in a boot. Nobody saw me.
Yeah. So they're like, "What's wrong with you?" Yeah.
And I'm like trying to use my words to explain it, but like nothing can even explain what I was feeling. And again, it's like, what are the coaches thinking? Do they think I'm just like milking this entire injury, or do they know that I'm genuinely hurt, which is why I can't be on the field?
Yeah.
I just want to wrap your hamstring just to show people.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact that there were games where I wore this like little sleeve, and I'm like, I probably don't need this, but I want people to know like I've
the problem.
Yeah. That's a hard thing, and it's
We prepare like your whole life. You spend your whole youth trying to attain this one goal. You both finally get there, and then to have something like that happen, you completely derail everything you've worked for.
But it's also it's like the perception of your perception of what other people are thinking is the problem.
100%.
Because you might have an injury, and like people might they might believe you, because you really like no one knows what you're experiencing because they're just not in your body. But I mean, I remember, especially with like concussions, now it's a different thing because it's emphasized so much more that it's an important thing to be aware of. But getting hit in the head, like same thing, like people, like you don't have your head wrapped, you're not wearing a helmet,
right?
It's like, it's something that you're dealing with like very internally. And there's still people to this day, like you tell someone you have a concussion, they're just like, oh, like, well, what's that even mean? And having to deal with that because you do put in a lot of work, and then there are instances where there's other people that do milk injuries, or maybe they aren't or more sensitive to what they're experiencing, and maybe those people need a little bit of a push, but not everyone's like that. Like there's plenty of people that are seriously injured and then just feel like they're not getting the support from the other people that might be.
Did you either of you find that at that level, at the D1 level, anybody milking it? Like, would you actually find, because I feel like athletes that get to that level, everybody wants to be the person with the ball or wants to be out there, in the game and wants to be performing. Did you actually find folks that would get injured and try to milk it?
I mean, kind of going off what I said before, like for me personally, I committed my sophomore year of high school. And between sophomore year of high school and freshman year of college, like there's a lot of time that goes on. There's a lot of time that passes between those 2 points, and a lot of people grow and progress more as a player, and then there's other people who don't or stay the same. So I think there's always 1 or 2 people on the team who maybe just aren't at that level by that point because you commit so early. And I know that the rules have changed since I played way back in the day, but no, there are people who maybe aren't at the same level as the people around them, and they feel the need to like milk injuries or make excuses for why they're maybe not playing as much or why they're not performing. And so it is happening.
For sure. You're talking about in high school though, right? Or are you talking about the college level too?
Progress over time, like not getting any better with my time because you commit. Even if I committed a sophomore in high school, and if I sucked the next 4 years, I'm still, or next however many years, I'm still going to go right there.
Yeah. I think, I mean, more so what I feel like I ran into is that because more people are sensitive to, some people are more sensitive to injuries than others, and they kind of get in their head that if they return too quickly that they're going to get injured again. And like no one wants to be out, and that's a problem. And so then you have those instances where people maybe take longer than they feel like they need to, even though that everyone's telling them they're ready to go. Like the trainers, the physicians, everyone's saying like, you're good. But then they're like, I just don't think I am, because they don't want to go back out there and just yank something again and be done again. So, I mean, but I don't think I've ever necessarily ran into anybody that's like specifically milked something on purpose.
I feel like I definitely have.
You're kind of,
There's like certain people that just pop up.
yeah, I feel like you're in a little bit of a different situation though, because like on the men's side of things, you really don't, it's not common to commit that early, you know? And I mean, I never understood what the rule difference was. I mean, I didn't commit to Pitt until it was January of my senior year. And there's other because I think it was, you couldn't even be spoken to by a coach until your junior year of high school. And I never understood how that worked with women's soccer, because you hear about like girls at freshman year of high school being committed to schools.
Yeah.
So
The rules are always
it's a big gap to make up.
Yeah.
It's a huge, like, it's a big deal for a school to double down on a player like that after 4 years.
Yeah, sorry to get off track, but like as I've said before on this podcast before, somebody has never played at that level. I'm just always interested in kind of all those different things that take place at that level, and people's mindset is really what intrigues me. But speaking of mindset, you know, everything that you went through and that you just talked about, like how did that impact your mental health?
Yeah, it was definitely really difficult. I will say junior year is whenever it was the worst for me. And I think I just really dealt with everything at that point. I dealt with anxiety, I dealt with depression, and none of those things were ever clinically diagnosed. But looking back and after talking with health professionals since, those were definitely things that I did go through, unfortunately. But also something that I dealt with was I had a really unhealthy relationship with food. And I think that came from just being in such a competitive environment at that point. And, you know, when you're playing at a top level and you're seeing other girls go out and, you know, run 5 miles a day before a game, go and play 90 minutes and then run after the game, like in your head, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to go and run before the game and then run after the game, or run before practice, run after practice. I see someone at practice staying and doing extra sprints. Like, I'm going to stay and do extra sprints, because if she's succeeding and she's doing these things, I'm going to do the same thing. And I do remember there was one girl specifically, and she did open up about it, and she did tell her story as well. She did have a eating disorder. And during COVID, when we all had to go home, she came back and she was 25 pounds lighter. And she was very open about her story. But I remember her specifically, she was somebody that I would see would take food and like not eat carbs. So then in your head, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to take the food and I'm not going to eat the carbs, because again, she's doing well, I'm going to do what she's doing. And I even remember one time I was home and I was really at probably my skinniest, and my mom was like, Emily, someone came up to me and I guess she told her mom that you look like really thin. Are you okay? I'm like, Mom, I'm fine. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I feel great. And I had a food scale. I'd weigh my food. I was always like, oh, Mom, I'm just making sure I'm eating enough protein, which I was, but I was also making sure I wasn't eating too many carbs. So I think that was something that I went through as well. And I didn't realize I went through it until I transferred to Pitt and I came here and I gained 15 pounds that I didn't even know I had to gain. So I think everything that I did go through definitely took a huge mental toll on me. And that's why I left all my stuff at Rutgers with all intentions of going back after the season. And I went home and I woke up one day in the summer and I just really noticed that I was going through the motions with soccer at practice and everything. I was like, that has never been me before.
Yeah.
And I just woke up one day while my family was in the living room and I said, guys, like, I think I need to transfer. And I remember my family looking at me like I had 5 heads, because, you know, my dad's like, you're on almost a full scholarship to a top women's soccer program. Like, this was your dream. And I said, I know, but something's not right. Like, I need to make a change for myself because I'm not okay. And I think that's the first time I really admitted to anybody that I was not in a good place. And so at first they were like, okay, well, I want you to think about this, and whatever you decide, we're obviously going to support you. And of course, at first they were a little bit like, are you sure? But they've been very supportive once I decided to transfer. And I had this whole elaborate plan in my head. I was like, I'm going to enter the portal and I'm going to talk to the Pitt coaches. I'm going to transfer to Pitt, and I'm going to go to Pitt and play for my hometown and hang up my cleats after my senior year. So I entered the portal. I called my coaches, and I loved Rutgers so much. I really did. And I still have such a good relationship with the coaches. So it was a hard conversation to have because especially after spending 3 years there, those girls were my family and the coaching staff and everybody. It was a really difficult decision to make, but I knew that it was a decision I needed to make for myself. So, okay. So then I enter the portal and I reach out to the Pitt coaches. And as you know, the player, there were so many people on the team.
There's a lot of players in
a lot of girls on the team.
Yeah.
So I saw, and I really didn't know what to expect. But like I said, this was plan A. There was no plan B. And also during the pandemic, like during this time, everybody was entering the portal. It was like really weird. It was probably the worst time.
The portal didn't exist when I was in college, so that made things very different for.
Yeah, it was tough. It was scary for sure. I'm getting all these emails, but a lot of the emails were like schools I never heard of before. Like, this is weird.
Yeah.
So I went and practiced in front of the coaches, and obviously everything worked out, and I came to Pitt, and I made it through my senior season for the first time 100% healthy. Oh, wow. So yeah, it was kind of like I don't know, it was something I was very grateful for, and I was nervous, and I think I did definitely deal with a mental block still of going into every practice and every game and being like, oh my God, I'm scared to keep pushing myself. And I do think that did hold me back a little bit from my performance just because I can count on 2 hands. I've pulled my hamstring so many times and I still have issues with it to this day.
Yeah.
So I made it through my senior season 100% healthy. I started making a lot of different changes for myself. You know, I got out of my relationship of 5 years that I was in and I started to really put myself first. And I started just posting on social media, and I think people saw like my story of, you know, going and maybe dealing with all this stuff and coming to my hometown and starting to do really well. So I think that's just how I started to slowly grow my following.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, my life literally did a complete 180 transferring to Pitt. Like I said, I gained 15 pounds that I didn't know I had to gain. My mental health was so much better. I'm in a great place now with it. And then I started just do stuff with social media on the side. And I told myself, I was like, I'm taking a 5th year. I owe this to myself.
Yeah.
Like, nothing's stopping me now. And then I go to train for the spring season. And one of the first few practices, I pulled my hamstring again.
It's unbelievable.
Wow, like, you've got to be kidding. I didn't play one game in the spring because I went through the rehab. I'm running around the fields. I was doing like track workouts. I swear to God. I was probably the most fit when I was doing these workouts. And I did all the rehab and I passed all the tests and I went to hop in practice and I pulled it again.
What, like, do you know why this, like, there's never been any indication or no one's ever told you anything that.
Just besides that I needed grinding surgery, but I've thought PRP injections, I've done everything.
So the career-ending surgery, like, what did they tell you? Like, I mean, is there like do you have like a partial tear or what's the?
They said it was tore 3 centimeters on a diagonal on the biceps femoris. It didn't come off the bone though, which is crazy to me because there was a girl who probably pulled her hamstring similar time as me and she off the bone completely.
Yeah.
And her recovery was so much.
I've heard their full tears are better than partials.
Yeah.
Hamstring's a weird one. I mean, I don't know a lot of people that have done that. I think you're the second person that I've ever met that's torn a hamstring. I mean, I tore my quad in high school, and that was like, I mean, it just healed and I was good. But hamstrings seem to be, number one, harder to tear. Maybe not in your case, but just less common to see. Yeah.
I mean, like, it wasn't like it was a full tear, like my muscles in half. Like,
Yeah.
only a partial tear, but it just kept happening. I don't know if it was because of
Scar tissue.
Yeah, I have so much scar tissue in there still, and you know, like, I don't know if it's because it was on a weird angle that it tore. Like, I have no idea, but I never really got a clear diagnosis of it, to be honest.
So that was spring of 22.
Yeah. So I was out the entire spring, and I stayed in the summer because I was still so determined. I was like, I'm playing this 5th year, and I was so determined to play, and I stayed in the summer. Everybody else went home, and I'm local to Pittsburgh, so me staying there wasn't a huge change. I was like 35 minutes from home, but I was at my apartment every day, and I went out to the field with my strength coach and my athletic trainer every morning, 7 a.m., Monday through Friday, and the interns would come. So there'd be like 4 people watching me run sprints.
Yeah.
And every single day. And honestly, I will be honest, it got to the point where they almost felt like it was mandatory for me to be there because I was injured and I was local.
Yeah.
Like, they expected me to be there every single morning. And whenever I would say I can't do it one morning, like, I felt the hostility. I did. And so it made it feel like an obligation to me, like that I was supposed to go and be there. And of course, I want to get healthy, so I made sure I was there. And then summer training came, and I trained all summer, but mentally, like, I was exhausted dealing with this and having to worry about, okay, I just made it through this ideal season for me, like under the lights in my hometown, 100% healthy. Do I want to keep pushing myself and running the risk of me ending my career on a note that I don't want to remember it on? Because at this point, I was in like the best spot of my life, and I was starting to see signs pop up again. I was starting to see, I remember, I don't even think I really told any of my teammates this, but there was a training in the summer, and I woke up one night and I had the worst anxiety attack, and I had to go home that night. I drove home to my parents, and I just texted my staff and I said, listen, like, because the strength coach was there and the athletic trainer, they were allowed to be on the field at this point. I sent them a text. I said, I need to take a mental health day. And I just told my teammates that I was sick. And I think that was the moment that I realized that the risk was outweighing the reward for me, because I started to see signs of things popping up that remind me of when I wasn't in such a good place. And I didn't think it was right for me to continue and maybe put half the effort in that I would maybe play, and other girls who are putting 100% in be on the bench.
So just to want to backpedal a little bit, your story, you talk a lot about your mental health and kind of your, issues with food. I feel like in not only women's sports, but with women in general, I feel like that's, especially young women, that's like a big struggle that they deal with, especially like in college, you're the freshman 15, all those kind of things. But especially somebody like you now, where it's on social media, so you put yourself out there. And as an athlete, like, what would your advice be to young women that are just coming into college, whether they're an athlete or just in general, how to stay healthy? Because everybody wants to be skinny and fit and all those kind of things, but what's your advice on how to do that, but still be healthy?
Yeah, it's hard because I always am very hesitant on what I say specifically about nutrition, only because I'm not certified in that area. But at the same time, I do have a fitness background and obviously a college athletics background. So my biggest piece of advice would be just to use your resources. I mean, if you're playing at a top program, you have nutritionists, you have coaches, you have strength coaches, you have everything that you need to be successful in that area and perform, and they'll help you. I mean, that's something that I wish I would have used a little bit more, were my resources that I had available to me, especially at a Big Ten school and ACC school. I do wish that I utilized those resources a lot more than I did, but I think just talking to them and, expressing, being completely transparent with them about what you're feeling, because they understand, that's their job. That's the area that they specialize in. So just using those resources and making sure that you're fueling for performance rather than all the looks, because believe me, I'm out of college athletics maybe by a year now, and I don't have to fuel for performance, so I do switch like the different things that I eat, but again, I'm making sure that I'm still eating enough, because I do still work out, and it's really important to make sure you're fueling your body.
And why do you think that athletes, women, men, whatever, don't utilize those resources?
I just maybe think they don't always realize that they have them available. I mean, it depends what school you go to, how involved your nutritionist is, or your strength coach in talking about these different things, or referring you to these different resources, because it would depend. I mean, if you're at a D3 school compared to a D1 school with the Big Ten, you might not have those resources. So I think just making sure that the staff is communicating that with their athletes is so important as well.
I want to jump in there. There's because I think that goes hand in hand with, like, talking about the mental health aspect of it. And I always find it so interesting to hear other collegiate athletes talk about that. Because in my junior year kicked off a 3-year thing for me, where I had an issue with, like, it was a combination of like OCD and anxiety. And it went on for a long time. And it's one of OCD is one of those things where it can be like, it kind of like has valleys and peaks and stuff like that. And at that point in time, mental health was becoming more prevalent in terms of how they would treat it, and like having the opportunity to speak with people. But it was still a really, really hard thing to like take that step and go and say like, hey, like this is an issue right now. I remember when I did it too, I went and talked to our trainers and I was just like, listen, like, and I was shaking. I like went in this room, shut the door, and I didn't even know how to convey what I wanted to say, you know, and it's a tough thing. And I always wonder like because I think the majority of people end up kind of like on an island by themselves because they don't know how to even talk about what is going on. And but the more I talk about college athletics with different people, like you kind of realize how common it is, you know?
Yeah.
See, when you talk about mental health and the lines of communication that are out there and available to you, Will called me old earlier. I'm not much older, but he's throwing a lot of shade today.
He really is.
So, but when I was in high school coming up, and this is just high school, but like in athletics, like we didn't talk about those kind of things. But I can remember seeing teammates, even myself, going through what I would consider a mental breakdown or an anxiety attack, and just not knowing what was going on.
Yeah.
Internally, and it was kind of taboo to talk about.
Yeah.
So like that, you guys at least had some sort of venue, whether you were comfortable working
It was
on.
beginning back then. Yeah.
Like I think it's really starting to take shape now.
Yeah.
But I know like 10 years ago, 10 years ago, Jesus, I've been out of high school 7 years. But yeah, all that time ago, it wasn't like, it's not something you talked about because you're afraid you get made fun of or weak or whatever it was.
Well, that's the other aspect of it too, because it's hard. It's so hard to navigate because there are times when you just need to like harden up and make it happen, you know? And I'm not saying that that's something that everyone should, the kind of, you know, support that everybody needs. Like some people do well with that and just the tough love and just like get on with it. And there's other people that don't. And so you know, you can't expect everyone to know exactly what somebody needs, but then that's kind of what the communication is all about.
Yeah. I mean, I can piggyback off of that. Like for me, I am somebody who's like, I don't need anybody's help. I'm going to take care of whatever I'm going through on my own.
Some would call that hard-headed.
Yeah, but my mother would say that. She would agree with you. So, but I think
I'm
also...
not the same age as her, though.
That hurt. Kidding.
That hurt.
But I think also a big thing is someone like me who, I mean, I still did post on my social media. I wasn't anywhere near like what I post now or I had as big of a following. But for me, I still posted. Seriously.
Not ideal.
For me, I was still posting on my social media. And of course, everything you see on social media, everybody is living their best life. And, you know, here's me at a Big Ten school. I have a boyfriend at the time and I'm living my best life, right? But what people didn't see was like wallet. And I think that social media just does a really good job at masking what people are really going through. So I think you don't always realize that maybe your good friend or your teammate is struggling because you don't always see that side. So I think people are really good at putting up a front, which is also why it makes it difficult for people to talk about sometime. And I think that's the biggest thing for me right now is I'm trying to find a way to utilize my platform and talk about the things that I went through. And I am in a really good place with it now and to talk about it. And I know that I went through a lot from transferring and mental health, unhealthy relationship with food, injuries, the whole 9 yards. So I want to use my platform and share my story because I can tell you I've gotten so many DMs already from young girls or athletes and just saying that they've been through something similar. And I try to respond. It's hard because I do get a lot of random DMs from different people, but
I think we should do a whole podcast on unpacking some of them DMs.
I want to see those DMs.
I think they're wrong.
Oh, but yeah, I try to respond. I mean, people have been so supportive in me being very transparent with my audience and showing a lot of support for everything that I've been through. And I've gotten great feedback and a lot of comments saying I've helped a lot of people. So I think that's really one of my main goals is to use my platform to advocate for mental health and athletics because people do go through it and it is a serious thing. So,
well, all 230 of our subscribers hear your message.
Yes.
Appreciate that. And let me guys.
All right. So, you know, we talked a lot about kind of the mental health things and the ins and outs of D1 soccer and athletics. I think one thing that doesn't get talked a lot about unless you're like a high profile superstar, which you're coming up.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna ask for autographs after this. Get a signed jersey or something. Anyway, is NIL. I know it's something that a lot of athletes think about now whenever they're going into college. Like, hey, can I make a couple bucks? So clear. Especially as expensive as school is, even if you're not on a full ride. Those kind of things. Even though mostly folks that have that full ride, or maybe you can correct that misconception, but it's my perception that the folks that are in there with like a full scholarship are the ones getting NIL deals. Is that true, or is that?
I see both. I think that there's people who maybe also don't even have a full scholarship, but are like, heck, I see this as an opportunity to make money, and sometimes they become the superstars over the people who might be on a full scholarship. So it just kind of depends who. Honestly, it's all a go-getter mentality. Like for me, I remember the law got passed, and the first thing I did was like, I'm going to start reaching out to people. And I think that just really also makes a difference of capitalizing on your opportunity, because I'm sure there's a lot of girls who were on my team at the time saw me getting deals and were like, well, what the heck? Why aren't I getting the deals? But I'm in my Instagram DMs going through local Pittsburgh companies, and I'm sending them, copy pasting the same message to all of them and changing the companies. And I remember it was my best friend's brother's girlfriend who was with a modeling agency in Pittsburgh. I know, try to keep track of that. She was with the modeling agency, Doherty agency in Pittsburgh, and we talked about it right before the law passed. And she's like, you should try to sign with them. And I was like, okay. And the NIL passed, and I signed with them, and it kind of all worked out. And I've done stuff with them, with Dick's Sporting Goods, and with Tubi to advertise for the Men's World Cup last year. So yeah, I think it's just a great opportunity, and I wish that it happened a little bit earlier, where I could have capitalized on that a little bit more. But me too. But I think it's really just all about having that go-getter mentality, and you never know, one thing could lead to the next. So it's just really all a matter of the mentality of who wants to go and capitalize on this, and there's going to be people who just sit back and watch other people grow. So I think that's the biggest thing, is taking advantage of these opportunities, because it is a whole different world now in college athletics because of it.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of red tape that you had to be aware of prior to the NIL thing happening. I mean, like, I couldn't even coach like a camp and use my name to promote it. Like, I couldn't call it the Will Marshall goalkeeper camp. It had to be whatever goalkeeper camp, and then in small print, coached by Will Marshall. Like, you could not use your name to promote yourself in any way, shape, or form.
For it?
Yeah, you get paid, but you just could not use your name, image, or likeness to basically I mean, the NCAA owned it in a sense. And I mean,
it ruined athletes, high-profile athletes' careers and lives, because they just weren't getting with the program.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think about local star Terrell Pryor, who I played against in high school. You don't want to break out that game now, which is
No, you don't.
embarrassing. But he give some memorabilia away for some tattoos.
No, I think that's right. Yeah.
And completely, they shunned him.
Yeah.
And it took that reputation into the NFL, and I mean, he just got some tattoos.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's a wild thing.
not to mention it's his shit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and now the way, I mean, it's like night and day, the opportunities that you have as an athlete. And, I look at some of the players that are at Pitt now, or even that were on the tail end of my coming out of Pitt, what they've been able to do with just being able to use themselves to promote themselves. And it's crazy. It really changed the landscape of everything.
I do think it was difficult for teams at first, because everybody's like, all right, or are you going to post something to try to get deals, or are you going to do it, or do I be the first one? And it is scary, because you're putting yourself out there, whether it's with the NIL or just social media in general, stuff that I do. You put yourself out there, and you get some negative feedback no matter what you put out.
We were having this conversation. Yeah. And I want to ask you this. What advice would you give to somebody that's looking to start posting on social media more in an attempt to build a platform like yours?
It's just really about consistency. You can't post one video and expect to blow up. It's all about, it's hard. There are days where I'll go out and I'll film stuff for hours, and I'll put a video out and it doesn't do well. And it is defeating, but it's just keep being consistent, and then eventually it will pay off.
Yeah.
No matter, it's like I said, it's just consistency and staying motivated, even though sometimes it is really challenging, and doing this stuff, it's takes time out of your day.
Yeah.
So it's also just time management. And that's a big thing with athletes as well is, you're so regimented with your schedule, and obviously athletics need to be prioritized, but then all this stuff should be secondary to your athletics, in my opinion, at least, unless you're some, social media superstar and then your athletics, you feel like it's second. But
Yeah.
I think it's just managing time and finding the time for it and just being consistent.
Yeah. Do you read the comments?
Do read a lot of the comments. I'll be honest. I mean,
This fall.
I try to some, it is good to be interactive with your audience. So I try to, and especially, like I said, if people are DMing me and asking for advice, I do try to answer those at least. Comments can be brutal. I mean, you could be, it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to get negative feedback regardless of the following you have if a video goes.
I do really bad. I mean, and I don't get a lot.
And those of you that are commenting, if most of the time I try to take the comments from Will so that he doesn't say something.
Oh, listen, if there's a negative comment, I text Mark and I'm like, listen, you better get to this before me because I'm not going to be as cordial as he is. And I'm surprised to hear that you say you read them because I've heard of other people that, because there's negative comments on everyone's like accounts with a big following. And there's these stories of people reading like negative comment after negative comment, and then they feel so defeated that it's hard to then continue to do what they do. And I mean, if you just post the stuff and put it down, then obviously it never really becomes real to you. Right. But I mean, if you're able to keep yourself level, then there's no reason why.
I mean, I will be honest, a lot of mine is, for the most part, I'll say like 80% positive, which is great. And I think, again, like I'm just in such a good place now mentally where I can read this stuff. I'm like, that's kind of funny that somebody wants to sit behind a screen and say that. Like, I mean, obviously there is going to be stuff where I'm like, wow, that kind of hurts. But I mean, again, I have a lot of great support from my audience and my fans where, it doesn't bother me when I read a silly
I got
comment.
told I have small calves the other day.
Did you go do calf raises the day after?
I didn't. I haven't touched my calves, and because I have large calves, like I don't have small calves at all, and it fired me up because the angle was bad. It was from like the side. I was like, man, my calves are too small. I was so mad, but it is what it is. It's a part of it. I'm past it now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's my birthday. Yeah, those were sick.
Look at us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tiny calves. You'll be okay.
I mean, like I said, my following in the grand scheme of things isn't as big as like some people's out there where I feel like there will become a point where I just really don't. I mean, there are videos that will get like millions of views where I can't even keep up with them to really even bother. Like I said, I try to respond when I can.
Relate.
No.
Nah, I can't relate with that.
Try to respond to a couple when I can, just because I do appreciate. I remember last birthday I had any DM that because I had like maybe 20 to 30,000 in December, my birthday, and things kind of took off very quickly for me in a short amount of time. But I remember I was like, wow, all these people are DMing me, telling me happy birthday. Like I need to respond to every single one. Went through and it took maybe like 2 hours, and I responded to every single person. But like I said, I don't think that's going to be able to happen in the future. But
what was it that happened with? Because I remember seeing it in the beginning, but there was a guy from Barstool, and did he have a TikTok? Wasn't it like the top 10 most attractive women's something?
Jack, yeah, he's actually funny story. He's actually still one of my good friends to this day. Like I was literally texting him yesterday, and we were talking about some stuff and some of the really cool opportunities I have coming up. And he's like, "I made you a superstar." And I was like, "Honestly, you did it, but you helped." Yeah. So no, he's awesome. He makes amazing content, but he did help bring some attention to Pitt soccer for sure.
Did you use your picture? Because it wasn't like a still shot of an individual player for each team.
Yeah.
And it was your picture?
Yeah.
So like, not to sound creeperish, I mean, we do our homework here at the Above Average Podcast. So when I Googled you, the Reddit thing that came up, gotta look.
Yeah, a little weird. I have seen that once or twice, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I don't have I have no comment.
It's a scary place.
Stay off Reddit.
Yeah. No Reddit.
Yeah. So try to do some homework, but
appreciate it.
Yeah. Didn't go well.
Yeah.
That's like our what on Twitter, fitness, #fitness.
So then we got to get a live reaction to that. You have Twitter, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if
I'm making Will uncomfortable.
I don't know if you want to see this.
Oh Lord.
So if you were to look up fitness on Twitter, what do you think you'd see?
Gym Some people working out.
It's dark.
I don't even.
He doesn't want to do it, but I don't want to do it.
I mean, so I'm just gonna give you a brief.
Wow.
What? That's a whole. It goes on forever,
And that's probably the G-rated version.
that's the problem. Like, what's the deal?
But okay, wait, this leads to an interesting segue because I obviously am in the fitness industry, and something that you're supposed to do when you're in the fitness industry is like promote your body, right? On social media. You see a lot of fitness influencers doing that.
Yeah.
And then what I do, but I like understand, yes, I did college athletics and I have a decent body because I work out and I work in the fitness industry as well. But I struggle to find that happy medium with, posting my body because I do fitness and people want to look like you in the fitness industry, but then also recognizing I have a young following. So I have a really difficult time finding that happy medium. And, I try to also think about, like companies aren't going to want to work with you if they see like you present yourself in a trashy manner. So I think that's, it's different because the companies that I want to work with, and like obviously different companies appeal or different people appeal to different companies. But like the ones that I specifically want to work for are always in the
Fan.
where I'm like, is Nike gonna want to see me like posting me laying on the beach? Like, I don't know. Like, and so I think that's been the hardest thing for me is just finding how to portray myself in that manner where I'm like attracting people in the fitness industry, but also being respectful and having a good image.
That is an interesting point, and I never would have thought of that on my own. Yeah.
We did a half a podcast dedicated to #fitness. It just, I don't get why that's even the only thing that comes up when you search that on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, it's endless. Like, there's not anything else. Like, it's all pictures like that, and it just feels like something's wrong, and I don't know what it could be, and that's part of the reason I stay off Twitter. I don't use Twitter.
I use Twitter.
Yeah,
I guess now I'm happy that I don't.
yeah, stay out of it.
My man Sal behind the camera needs to check out.
Yeah, he's over there looking up #fitness.
He's doing that over there behind the camera.
He's shaking his head no.
He's like writing it down his
You don't want it.
on the to-do list.
Delete your search history after you're done.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Anyway, I digress. So I just wanted to get that reaction because
Yeah.
as soon as I mentioned it, Will skin started crawling.
You just hate it. I hate it because it's just.
Don't do it. Yeah. Anyway, move on. So, we talked a lot about everything that you had going on in your past and different things. So, like, what's current situation for you, and then what's the future hold? I know you got a lot going on.
Yeah.
I don't know what you can share, but what are your interests?
Yeah. So right now, there was a point probably about a month ago, I had 4 different jobs. And I just think that's because like I hate just doing one thing. I like keeping myself busy and doing 50 million things at once. So I had like 4 different side jobs. So I guess I work for a fitness apparel company. It's called Astoria Activewear, and they basically send me their apparel, and I make 5 reels for them a week to post on their social media. So if anybody wants to check it out, Astoria Activewear, you can use code Harrigan15 for 15% off your order.
Hey.
And so I did that. And then I also give private soccer lessons. I do that on the side back at good old Norman High School. I have about 15 girls right now that I train on my own. So I'm kind of doing that full time right now, for the most part, just kind of on my own schedule while I do some traveling. I'm also working with the ECNL, where it's like the highest, I guess you could say, like youth league before you go off to college. And there's these big national showcases. Is one that I'm going to actually that of this month in San Diego, where it's like a huge event. Nike's going to be there and everything. It's like really big event, but they have these college showcases that I go and travel to, and I take over the social media there. So all the girls kind of know, oh, welcome around to be like, that's the Instagram girl. Like, she'll put you on the Instagram. So they'll come up to me. I'll take TikToks with them, take pictures with them. Like, I do little giveaways. So that's been really cool. I get to go travel and be at the fields all day.
And what does ECNL stand for?
Elite Club National League. Yeah, saw that.
I saw it.
And then I did.
Not in on the joke.
He doesn't get it. I did personal training as well on the fitness side of it. And I did youth coaching, which I still do. I help out once a week at my old club that I played for, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. And I help coach 9 and 10-year-old girls. Yeah. Saying it out loud, I'm like, that's a little crazy.
That's a lot.
But it's fun. And I'm doing all my social media stuff, and I have a lot of great deals in the works, but I can't really say any of it yet. A, I don't want to jinx it, and B, it didn't happen yet. So just gotta wait to see that one. But exciting stuff coming up for sure.
Real G's move in silence like lasagna. That's what I was just saying.
Oh my god.
Are you serious? Do we all hate that? Like that's
See, that was like a mic drop.
drop.
Yeah.
That's a Lil Wayne lyric. I mean,
I know it is. If you don't know, stop watching this podcast.
okay, fair enough. I'm glad that was the.
Yeah.
I was worried about that reaction.
Yeah, I knew what it was, but
I just didn't expect it. It really caught me off guard there.
the face.
It was just so serious.
Yeah. Like, and you didn't rap it, you just said
I
it.
just said it.
That phrase goes through my head at least once a day.
Because you're a real G.
100%.
Yeah. Wow, I don't even know what to say after that. So just Will.
I know, that really threw us off.
Yeah, that hurt.
Yeah.
So like, is there any, getting back to hobbies, you listed all your jobs. What do you do for fun aside from listening to Will rap over there?
Yeah.
Like, do you paint? Do you do anything?
You know what? I wish. It's terrible because I can't even tell you the last time I put on like a good TV show. Like, I feel like if I'm not doing something at all hours, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. That's something I am trying to work on, honestly, is taking some time for myself, because things do get hectic and I'm just such a people person where, you know, if I have a couple hours to myself, I'm like, who can I invite over to come keep me occupied right now? Or like, who can I FaceTime and bother? But I do need to take more time to myself for sure. But I do travel. Like this past weekend, I went and visited a friend in Florida and we went to like the Miami Heat NBA Finals game, and just, it was a last minute trip. I literally booked the trip like 5 days before I went down there, and it was fun. Yeah, just traveling right now. And I told myself I was going to give myself the rest of this year because I just graduated from my master's program.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. I just graduated and I said,
That seems like the smallest of your accomplishments so far.
right?
Yeah.
No, I kind of felt that way too. Like, I graduated. I could be more excited about it. But I did. I graduated from my master's program, and, you know, all my classmates are getting jobs and internships right out of it. And I was like, I'm going to do that. Yeah. I played college soccer. I played soccer all my life. I never had the chance to go and do things that I enjoyed. I never got the chance to go and travel for fun unless it was for a tournament, and couldn't do anything there besides be ready to play.
Yeah.
So I told myself, I'm going to give myself the rest of this year, and I'm going to just go with the flow, do some fun traveling and see what opportunities present itself. Because, you know, I used to have a plan. I lived by plan for the longest time where I was going to go to Rutgers. I was going to have this great career in college. I was going to go professionally, maybe come back after a couple years, go to PA school, and none of that happened. But I feel like I still ended up exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. So I guess that's why I'll have people ask me like, all right, what's your plan now that you graduated? And I'm like, I don't know. Because I don't really have a plan. I'm being completely honest. I have some things, obviously, where I've had my education and I have a background in certain things where I know I could get a job if I need to in like sports performance or something. But I just feel like with the things that I have coming up, I think the right opportunity will present itself at the right time.
Yeah, it's crazy that, like, I look at you and Will and I have talked about this. Like, if I could go back to where to your guys' age and have it as figured out and be in a position, like, it would just, there would be so many things that I would do differently. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for where I am in life right now. I have a beautiful wife. I have 3 beautiful kids. I'm very grateful for all of them. But from a career standpoint, to be in a position that you guys are in terms of, don't nobody tell you what to do. This is, if you're going to go make money, you're going to go hustle and go do a couple things, and you work for yourself. There's no getting up and going to work and like getting up and just like, do this today again. But if I don't, my lights are going to get shut off kind of situation. So like, be very proud of being in that moment and enjoy the moment while you're in it, because it may not last forever. It may last for a very long time, but just like, I look at the two of you and where you are in life, and it's really impressive because you both are extremely smart and know exactly what you want, but you're kind of just, you're going with it, and there's nothing that's going to get your way. Like we were talking, you know, prior to on camera a few weeks ago, and you mentioned about, you know, maybe I'll go do something with the professional women's soccer, something like that. And the way that you said it, you were just like, yeah, this is going to happen. Whereas like normal people don't think that way. Like people like me, that's like me going right now, you know what? I think I'll go play quarterback for the Steelers. It's all good. I'm just going to go do that tomorrow. Like, no, it doesn't happen like that. And just for you to just have that mindset, and Will's the same way. Like, if I want, I'm gonna go make it happen. And like that's kind of rubbed off on me a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm trying to do different things and try to set up my own situation now a little later in life. But it's super impressive to be around. That's why I enjoy doing these so much, is being around people that are just mentally at such a high level and used to succeeding. And don't get me wrong, you both have dealt with trial and error and different things along the way, but there's just where you are in life, just enjoy it. Like you guys are you're killing it, and just enjoy that life.
It's good. So no, but I mean, for me, like I have that mentality now because I mean I've been through literally the ringer. I've been through so much, as we talked about, and I think right now I can easily say like I'm the most confident I've been. I'm the most driven and motivated I've ever been. So that's why I do say things like that, because I went through so much, but I finally got my feet back under me, and I have that strength and have seen results from the motivation. And, you know, I've had a lot of support. Like I could not have done any of this on my own. I've had support from my family, my friends, and also my followers, coaches, everyone, where they've helped contribute to that confidence for me to say like, I'm going to go and work with professional teams. I mean, well, I like I said, I don't have a plan, but I feel like if I wanted to go that route, I feel like at this point, I would probably try to make that happen in whatever way possible.
Yeah, just like bananas. Like even like, you know, Will and I talk a lot. You know, he spent some time with the Riverhounds, which is a professional soccer organization.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not. It was just getting up and go to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I lived over here and I rode my bike to the stadium. And,
Yeah.
you know, I was out there with the pro team for 2 years. And,
Meanwhile, when Will and I first met, and you know, we started all this, I'm like, yeah, I did a podcast with somebody, you know, who's involved, is a coach for a professional soccer organization. You know what I mean? Like, because that's super impressive. Like, it's just normal people don't do that shit. Like they play high school and then they tell their friends like they were some elite athlete in high school, and that's it. Like, ask me how I know.
yeah.
But that's just what normal people do. And then you look at those normal people and you're like, well, if you're so good, what? Yeah, I mean, so, and you know, I used to be that guy. I'm not anymore, because I know people are looking at me like you weren't shit because you'd have been more. But life happens. But yeah, it's really cool to see and be around. So
Appreciate them.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
You're run through a wall right now, dude.
Yeah, wow. Gonna go have the best workout of my life after this. We go to the gym.
So, anything else that you want to talk about, or let the people know before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I just think touching on like some of my goals moving forward is, I remember my Rutgers coach, he would call me all the time randomly. And I remember one of the biggest things he would say, he'd be like, how are you going to make an impact? And his big word was always impact. And I think like that has always stuck in my head, whether it was in practice, at games, or just in life in general. And I think that's going to be my big thing moving forward, and is how am I going to make an impact? So like I said, I don't have a set plan. Don't ask me my plan, because I'll tell you, I don't know wherever the wind takes me right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that my main goal is to make an impact in any way, shape, or form. And if it's just helping others, even in the smallest way possible, then it'll feel like a small victory. So
Yeah, I mean, with the platform that you have, I don't think that would be a problem. I mean, you'll impact somebody, even if it's just one person. You know what I mean? I think that's big enough impact. So yeah, I definitely think you'll
Thank you.
Settle if you haven't already. So
Thank you.
I think you might want to find another goal accomplished.
Yeah.
So with that, Will, do you have anything else?
No. I don't think so. I mean, this was sick.
Yeah. No, really, really do. In all seriousness, appreciate you taking the time out. We know you're extremely busy. You know, this was, you know, I really appreciate you coming on, and I know Will does too. And we definitely should do it again, and not just saying that, really mean it. Definitely dive into them DMs.
Jeez. I don't know about
and it'll be like, it's no. Anyway, but no, seriously, really appreciate you taking the time out. Know you're busy, and know you have a lot going on, and I can't wait to see what else you do. I think it's gonna be really cool. just to watch and say that, hey, I met her, did a podcast with her. So
Yeah, when she was semi-famous. Like 20 times more famous.
just don't forget those little ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never. No, I appreciate you guys as well, because like I've been trying to figure out how to tell my story, because I think I'm also in this weird position where I don't want to scare people away from college athletics, because it's an amazing opportunity to be a part of something greater than yourself, and being a part of a team environment and playing at the next level. It's incredible. So I think I've been in this weird position where I want to tell my story, because of course there's people who go through it, but I also don't want to scare people away from it. So I think that you guys giving me this opportunity has been incredible, because it's one of the first times I've really been able to sit here and have a conversation about things that I've been through. So I appreciate you guys as well.
Yeah, look at us, dude.
Yeah, look at
Our team. Dream team right here.
There it is.
future like permanent segment. No, I'm kidding. Cheetah can't commit to anything else. So with that, appreciate you all follow along. Hopefully you enjoyed everything I know you did, because we enjoyed the time. And with that, at the end of every podcast, we like to put out there and let our guests, and obviously we plug around, but the social media. So where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me basically on all platforms. I'm pretty sure my username's the same. The original Emily Harrigan was taken, so it's Emily with 2 Y's, Harrigan.
Okay. And that's the same on all platforms.
All platforms, Instagram, TikTok. Not a YouTuber quite yet. Maybe I'll get done. They're going to help me.
Yeah.
YouTube's
That's our level.
Get on our level. I'm so sure. Will, where can they find you?
I'm just going to go with Instagram here. It's @WillMarshall_1.
Will forgot his card. Those of you that are
Yeah, I can't remember all the other tabs.
says his card. He has to look at it to plug all his socials. It's really sad.
Because they're all different. They're just different.
Yeah,
Like
make it the
one,
same.
they're all taken. So, well, actually, maybe they aren't. I've never tried to look, so I should look at that. Mark, where can we find you?
And then you can find me at MarkyD25 on Instagram and MarkyD17 on TikTok. My Instagram is probably the better one. I've gotten a lot better at it in my old age.
Yeah, he's getting consistent.
Wow. And I guess just one thing to throw out there. Again, I'm always a resource to anybody who might be going through any of the things that I shared, where I will try to respond to any DMs that I get regarding any sort of struggles you might be going through regarding athletics. So feel free to send me a message if you ever need me as a resource. But if not, just remember it's okay to not be okay, and you have a ton of people who'd be more than willing to help. So
Well
throw that out there.
fantastic.
Well said.